So in today's lecture, we will be seeing the importance of data collection and then what are the different terminologies that we usually use in urban transportation planning. Okay, so module 2 is data collection and inventories. Inventories is nothing but the way of how the data is being stored. So in collection of data, we will be seeing how surveys have to be organized and how surveys has to be analyzed. Then we will see what steady area means, what is zoning, then what are different types and source of data that should be collected because data is available, right? Data is available in any mode, in any way. So what type of data that you require and what is the source of that data? And then what are roadside interviews, home interview surveys, then commercial vehicle surveys, sample, what are different sampling technique, like in your class we have strength of 67 students. Suppose we have to do a survey on how online education is impacting the students, we will be taking a sample of all 65, right? And if the study has to be taken for entire Karnataka, for entire India, it will be difficult to sample or to get the data from all the students. So there will be some sampling technique, like how you choose or what sampling method you might be opting. So we will be seeing in detail, and this sampling technique is important for your research also, for your project studies also. You will know, or you should know what actually the sampling techniques are. Then expansion factors, then how do we check the accuracy for the data, then what are the use of secondary data, secondary source of data. So now any process of survey, these are the 7 important steps in any surveying technique. Okay, first you have to define the purpose and what is the usage or why the survey has to be conducted. That is the first stage. The second stage is the data collection objective and what are the constraints that are involved in data collection. That has to be defined clearly, right? What is objective of the data collection and then what all might be the constraints that might be coming up. So once you're done with the purpose and the usage of the data, and then you understand what are the objectives and what are the limitations or constraints, then you will be defining the target area or the target population. So there, after you identify the target population, then you will be going for what mode of serving and then what sampling technique has to be opted. Like suppose you have to understand how two-wheeler or how two-wheeler reduces the travel time. So in that case, the purpose and usage is to study the impact of two-wheeler, right? And the data collection objectives you have to understand. Then the target population and area means you will not you the target for the entire for the study will not be all the individuals. So we have to use or we have to identify the population, or we have to identify the area where there are maybe the number of two-wheelers are more. Based on that, you will be choosing the sampling in the sense how many, or how to choose the people that has to be surveyed. After this step, you have to develop the questionnaire. Like for any surveying, you will not be directly going there and asking any random question. The questions or the surveying questions should be uniform. It cannot vary from one person to another person. So you have to develop the questionnaire, and then the survey has to be carried out, and then the post processing comes. Post processing, how you use the data, like this is the data that you have after conduction of survey. What do you have? You have the data. So how do you utilize the survey? How do you utilize the data? That comes in post processing. Okay, so first you define the purpose and the usage, then you define the data collection objectives and the constraints, then the target population and the area has been identified, then the sampling procedure has been selected, then the questionnaire has to be developed, then survey has to be implemented, and then the post processing of the data has to be done. So the important thing in any surveying is a study area. So planning can be done in any level. It can be at the national level, then it can, or it can be at the regional level, or it can be at the urban level. Okay, so why a study area is important? Because surveying has been done to implement or to plan something for the future. So you have to understand what is the existing condition and then how the area is going to be developed in the future. So for this, you have an important term, that is external cordon. So this external cordon line is an imaginary line that represent the boundary of the study area. So if I can show here, if this is the cordon line area, that means your area or your study is being limited to this area, okay, which is covering this pink line. So this is nothing but the cordon line survey. So this is the inside area of the cordon and this is the outside area. Okay, and then you have a screen line. So here a screen line is nothing but which divides the cordon line into two, or maybe it divides the cordon line due to some geographic feature. So here there are two screen line. One is the river that is flowing, which divides the cordon or the study area into two, and another one is the railway line. So these are the two screen line. So we'll see in detail. So the cordon line should circumscribe all the areas which are already built up, and then also it should also cover the area that will be developed during the period of study, and then this should be compatible with the previous studies and the area of studies which is to be planned for the future, and then it has to be continuous and uniform. Okay, and it should be intersecting the roads where it is safe, and it has to be compatible with the previous study. Like previously, if they have done some study, this new area of study should have some compatibility with the previous area of study. And one more thing is, along this cordon line, surveys will be conducted. So it is always important that this cordon line intersects some road which is safe, so that the engineers or the surveyors can do the or can carry out the traffic survey without any problem with their safety. So you cannot choose any road which is accident prone area, right? Because people have to, or the engineers or the staff, they have to conduct few surveys, traffic surveys. So that should also be one condition. So this is nothing but the cordon line. So there are a few terms in cordon survey. You have the external cordon line, that is nothing but the imaginary line that will be representing the boundary of the study area. Then you have the study area, which is covered by for what? For the purpose of data collection and planning. So this is the cordon line. So the area that has been enclosed by the cordon line, this is nothing but the study area. So all the data collection, the surveying, everything will be conducted at this, within this boundary. So then you have the screen line. So screen line, I have told, it's an imaginary line that splits the area into two parts. So here you have a natural barrier like a river or a canal, or you have a physical barrier like railway line, etc. And zones again, the area under the cordon line, sorry, the area within the cordon line, which is used for data collection and aggregation. So trips, we will first explain what a trip is, and then we will see what internal to external and internal to internal are. So here, this is a typical, map I have took from the Google map. So this is a typical map for Bangalore. So if I consider this as a cordon line, okay. So here, if I look from this overview, you cannot find any screen line. But maybe if I zoom in again, a railway line might be passing through, which divides the area into two, right? So now internal movements means in this cordon line. So you have Malleshwaram here and Indiranagar here. So if you're traveling from Malleshwaram to Indiranagar, this is nothing but internal to internal travel. Internal to external trip means from Indiranagar if you have to go to Whitefield. So that is nothing but internal to external. External to internal is again from Whitefield to Indiranagar is external to internal trip. Okay. External to external is again, see if I can take here. You have JP Park and you have the Columbia Hospital at Hebbal. So this is external to external trip. So here trip and journey you should not be getting confused with. Journey is always the outward movement. Okay, so trip is nothing but you have an origin, you have a destination. You move from origin to destination, that is one trip. You move from destination to, like, the vice versa. So suppose here, if you have to move from Indira Nagar to Malleshwaram, you are moving from Indira Nagar to Malleshwaram. Indira Nagar will be what? Will be your origin, and Malleshwaram will be the destination. So yeah, so here you can see from Indira Nagar to Malleshwaram, it is one trip. So here this is the origin, and Malleshwaram is the destination. Now from Malleshwaram to Indira Nagar you are going. So now Malleshwaram will be the origin and Indira Nagar will be what? Will be the destination. So now how many trips are happening here? This is trip number 1, trip number 2, right? So though it looks like a journey, but trip 1 is from one origin to destination. Trip 2 is again from origin to destination. So this is nothing but internal to internal. Right now, if I have to take internal to external, let's again take Jayanagar. So that will be your origin from Jayanagar to Tippasandra. So you have origin and destination. So this is trip number 1. Now, when you have to travel back from Tippasandra to Jayanagar, Tippasandra will become the origin and Jayanagar will become the destination. You have the trip number 2. Okay, so is this clear with the concept of origin and destination? So after you define the cordon line, so this we have seen internal to internal, etc. So we will again discuss in detail how zoning has to be done. So once you get the steady area, it is difficult to do. See here, I have explained about Jayanagar, Tippasandra, but these are not a smaller steady area. So again, this entire steady area is divided into smaller zones. So the steady area is divided to sector. So usually the numbering is given as 0 to 8. Then each sector is divided into zone. So zone numbering is from 0 to 9. That means you have 10 zones. And then each zone is again divided into subzones. Is that clear? So zones are divided such that, in the administrative divisions, particularly the census zones are being, are being divided. Then zones has to be homogeneous. So you have to choose zones such that maybe it is based on the administrative division or it is due to the population, etc. Okay, and then they should be matching the cordon and the screen lines. Then the zone should be smaller in size. Why? Because only then the error that will be coming in surveying can be minimized. But if the area is large, the error that will be coming there will be huge, and that will be again extrapolated to the larger area. Okay, so it's always better the zones that you're choosing are smaller. And then they should be having a homogeneous land use. Like if you're considering Jayanagar area, entire area, then Jayanagar Park can be one zone, then another zone. Okay, you cannot, it's not ideal to combine the area of the park and then the hospital together. So the zones, when you divide, it should be a homogeneous land use. And wherever possible, when you have any natural barrier or if you have any rail line or if you have any national highway running, that can form as a barrier to form convenient zone boundaries. So is this clear? So now trip, I have already told you, it's a single moment. So from origin to destination. So suppose you are going from home to work. From home to work, you have one trip. Work to home, you have another trip. Maybe from work, you'll be going to the shop. So you have work to shop one trip, then shop to work, again another trip. Then sometimes you might be directly going from home to shop. You have home to shop one trip and then shop to home again another trip. Sometimes from home, you'll be going to the shop. Then from shop, you'll be going to school, etc. Right? So origin is nothing but the location where a trip begins. So usually, no, your origin will be, your home. So it is described in terms of the street address or a monument or a street intersection, etc. Destination is the location where the trip end. Okay. So that will also be having the same description as the as the origin. It will be also be having a street address. Suppose you're going from your home has a street address or you have an address, and from home you're coming to college, so your college has an address. Okay, so origin destination describes what? It describes end of a single trip. So again, trips can be of to a few. We will see what are the different classification for the trip. So you have home-based trip and non-home-based trip. So in home-based trip, this concept should be clear. In home-based trip, either the origin or the destination of a trip can be home. Okay, either the origin or the destination. That is nothing but home-based trip. Non-home based trip means any other trip other than home based trip is classified as non-home based trip. So we will see a few examples with some schematic figure. Then trip production. So this is based on the trip, right? Trip production, trip attraction is based on the land use. So if you have for the home based trip, obviously one end will be what? One end will be your home. So if you're going from home to college, so this is a home based trip, right? Because the origin is home, right? So this end of a home-based trip is nothing but production. So this area is nothing but the trip production. Now, if I have a non-home-based trip, okay? So if I am going from college to gym, so this is a non-home-based trip. Why? Because there is no home is not involved here. You're going from your college to the gym. So in this case, the origin will be trip production. Is that clear? Trip attraction is again non-home end of a home-based trip. So here from home to college you're going. So home is what? Home is the origin. So here this is a home-based trip. Why is this a home-based trip? Because one of the either the origin or the destination or one end of the trip is nothing but the home. So here the non-home end is nothing but the trip attraction. Okay. Now let us take for a non-home based trip. That means from college to gym if you're going, the destination will be nothing but what? Trip attraction. Is this clear? This concept students used to get confused. So we will see with some examples, so then it will be much more clear. Then trips are again classified as on the basis of trip. So trips for work, you have trips for education, trips for shopping, trips for recreation. So now here the concept of trip will not be long destination. Suppose you're going from your home to a shop, to a nearby shop, maybe in a cycle, that is considered as a trip. Okay, and based on the time of the day, you have the peak hour and the off peak hour. So the trips that have been taken during the peak hour, that is nothing but the peak trip, and the trips that are taken during the off peak time, that is the off peak trip. Then based on the type of the individual also, the type of trip will be different. So now, yeah, here we have seen we are seeing a schematic, a graphic representation of the trip. So here this is home. So now how many home-based trip can you find here? Anyone? How many home-based trip can you find? Home-based trip means either the origin or the destination can be home. So here how many home-based trip can you find? Yeah. Yes, Prajwal? How many trips are based on home? Prajwal, yes, you were about to answer.
2, ma'am.
2, very good. Okay, yeah, it was Suryavamshi. Yeah, Suryavamshi. You can get 2. Make them. So which are the 2 home-based trip? Good, Suryavamshi. Which are the 2 home-based trip?
Trip 1 and trip 7.
Trip 1 and trip 7. Yeah. Trip 1 is nothing but from home to work, right? And then trip 7 is from daycare center to home. So these are 2 home-based trip. Now, which are the non-home based trip? So every other trip that is there are nothing but non-home based trip, correct? So now we will quickly see this example from home to work. So let us take which one will be the trip attraction and which one will be trip production. So since trip 1, this is what home based trip. So I'll give this as HBT. Okay. So here this will be nothing but what? production, this will be attraction, right? Any home-based end will be production, and the work, obviously the next will be the attraction. So now let us take trip number 4. Trip number 4, you have work to the gas station. Okay. So for any non-home based trip, what's the criteria? What was the criteria that we have discussed for any non-home and business or any non-home based trip? Yeah. So here, if we take trip 4, so this will be nothing but the production, and this will be again the attraction, right? For any non-home based trip, the origin will be the production and the other end will be the attraction. Okay. So here, how many trips you can find? You can find 7 trips. Trip 1 is from home to work. Then even here you can see the walking is also considered as a trip, right? Trip 2 is from work to lunch. Then again, trip 3 is from lunch to work. Then you have trip 4, from work to gas station. Trip 5 is gas station to the grocery store. Then trip 6 is grocery store to the daycare center, and from the daycare center to home is trip number 7. So is this clear about the concept of attraction and production? So if this is clear, then next week, all of you can prepare the chart for your trip for the entire day. So you'll be clearly drawing a flow chart. So obviously it has to end in home. Home in the sense it's a place where you stay. Okay, so you can start from one end and then mark the trip number. Then what was the mode of travel? So for trip 1, the person has opted for car and then subway like the metro, and then has walked to work, right? So if I have to take my condition from home to work, for me it will be only walking. There will be people who from home to uh, college, they will be having car. Maybe their relative or their parent might be dropping up to one location, and then from there they will be taking a bus, and then they'll be walking up to the college, right? So you can prepare your own flow chart for the trip. So now again, yeah, here we see. So this is a non-residential area and this is a residential area. So here the worker leaves zone 1 in the morning to go to work in zone 8. Okay, so the first trip, that means it is what? It's a residential, it's a non-residential trip. So if we take this, if we take from zone 1 to zone 8, origin is zone 1 and destination is zone 8. Now the person travels from zone 8 to zone 1. So here this is the origin and destination will be what? Destination will be zone 1. So though here you can see, right? Here in the first case, zone 1 was origin. But when he is traveling from work to home, the origin becomes what? Zone 8. Okay, so the total number of trip ends are, for zone 1, there are 2 trip ends. One origin and one destination, right? Trip end means it doesn't mean always the origin. Sorry, it doesn't mean always a destination. Okay, so for zone 1, there is one origin and one destination. So more detailed numerical on how we do this will be discussed in the coming module. So trip production we have seen, it is the home end of home-based trip, and origin of what? Origin of non-home-based trip. So what are the factors that will be depending on trip production? So number of workers in a household, right? So if you take a typical house, there will be the student might be going to school, the parent or the elders will be going to work. So what are the factors that will be depending on a trip production? Like for a typical, if you take a single house, you can consider single household. Okay. Then the factors that will result in the trip production is the number of people who are employed or the number of people who has to go to work, and number of students who are studying, right? Then what is the size of the household? Like suppose, if it's a joint family, there might be 5 members who might be traveling on a daily basis. Three might be going for work and two might be going to school. But if the unit is less, if there are only 3 members or if there are only 2 members, right, the number of trips that will be generated from that household will be less. So the household size and the composition in the sense, what is the age or what is the demographic distribution in that household also changes. Then based on the household income also, the number of trip that the person may take will be different, right? Then there are again some proxy, like the number of cars. Like suppose if there are no other mode of transport, then the number of trip the person might be willing to take for any other purpose will be less or will be more. So these are the few factors that the trip production will be depending on. Now, trip attraction is nothing but this is again the non-home end of home-based trip, right? For if you are going from home to college. So college is nothing but trip attraction. Right now, if you're going from college to gym, then gym will be what? Gym will be the attraction. So what are the factors that will depend on trip attraction? Like, if you're going from home to college. So what are the factors that will depend on this attraction, trip attraction? It's mainly if you're going to a mall, right? The floor area, the number of shops that are available, then maybe the number of employment opportunities. So these are the few factors. Then based on the school and college enrollment, the trip attraction that they get will be different. Then if it is, a leisure place, or if it's a recreational area, if it's a cultural area. So again, that are few factors that will result in trip attraction. Yeah. So now, quickly glancing through this flow chart. Okay, you have to tell me what is the total number of trip. It's an assignment. Now I want, one of them to quickly answer. I'll call out a name. So you can go through the flow chart. Please take out one book, take a paper, draw this flow chart. So from home to university, university to restaurant, then again from home, you have the friend's home, then friend's home to cinema, then you have a mall and then a gym. So count the total number of trips that are there. So the arrows are actually very much clear. So there is no need of any confusion. Yeah, what would be the total number of trips? Anyone? I don't want Suryavamshi or Yaksha to answer. Neither Chandana also. Someone new who has not been answering. Bhuvan.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So how many trips you can find here? Should it take this long to give the number of trips?
5 or 6, ma'am.
Only 6 you can find?
That's all I could get, ma'am.
Yeah, so which are the 6 trips that you can find here? Give me the origin and the destination.
Home university,
Okay, so that is one. Then,
home to restaurant, no,
no, home to restaurant I cannot find
home to
any
mall,
direct
ma'am.
trip.
Home to mall,
Okay, 2.
home to gym,
Okay, 3.
cinema to friend's house,
Okay,
uh, mall to friend's house,
okay, 5.
then gym to home.
So that's all you can find. 6 trips. What about from university to restaurant, then restaurant from back to home?
With for 2 points I told, ma'am.
No. Total. See, this can be during some time, right? From home to university. See, that person would have left home by 8:30, uh, then university, then from university to restaurant, and then maybe he or she would have been back at home by 4:30. Then at 4:30 again, to the mall, then to the friend's home, then from friend's home to the cinema, then from cinema to friend's home, and then again home. Maybe after that, gym. Okay,
Like
so
that,
this,
many combinations will come.
yeah, like how in that case, how many trips? That means how many trip and how many, like, from one origin to destination. So this is one, two, we have three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You get 10 trips. Okay? Okay, good. Then how many home-based trips you can find here? Anyone? Jagdish.
Si- Six, ma'am.
Home-based trips, you can find six. Okay, so that means from home to university, one. Then
Restaurant to home,
two. Very good. Then,
then friend's house to home,
yeah,
then you have home to mall,
yes,
then home to gym and back.
yeah, gym to home. So you have six home-based trips. How many non-home-based trips? So obviously, the remaining four will be non-home-based trips, right?
5, ma'am.
Five, you're having non-home-based trips?
Yes, ma'am. From home to gym, home to mall, and friends home to cinema,
No, no,
home
no,
to
no, no,
restaurant,
no.
and to
No, no.
university.
Non-home based trips means any other trip where home is not involved.
But we are traveling to different destination, no, ma'am.
No, in this case, see, from university to restaurant, you have one. Here, neither
Okay.
of the end is home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then from mall to friend's home. So though that is friend's home, but that is not the place where you or that person resides. So that is one. So here again, the home is not being involved. Then these two trips, right? So here
Okay.
both home, non-home based trip means neither of the end should be home. Okay, so whatever you told, one end was home, right? So obviously that is based on home. It may not be origin or the destination. Any end can be home based. Okay, Lekit, is
Okay,
that
ma'am.
clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now we will quickly glance through the primary data and secondary data. So the primary data that you have to collect for any survey, for transportation planning surveys, the traffic volume count, then the origin destination surveys, road inventory, like what are the conditions or what are the facilities available on the road, then household socioeconomic and travel survey. Obviously you understand, right? Based on the socioeconomic condition, the type of travel pattern will be changing. Then speed and delay survey. How can you estimate the delay? How can you estimate the delay? Like, you know the distance between 2 points and you know what is the design speed there. So if the vehicle is not able to, reach the destination in that, by doing the calculation for design speed and time, then obviously there will be some delay. So why that? Then the public transport survey, then any other intermediate public transport, then the truck operator and user survey, goods focal point survey, then parking survey, commercial vehicle survey, and pedestrian survey. So next class we will in detail see how these surveys will be conducted. So these are the primary data that has to be collected. In secondary data, that means this is the supporting data that you require for the primary data. Demographic characteristics, that means the gender distribution and the population distribution. Then the socioeconomic characteristics. Then what is the present land use and what is the proposed land use for the study area. Then how is the typical road network, and then what are the transportation system characteristics. Then what are the transport policy related issues. Then what are the funds that are allocated for transport movements. Then what are the details of terminals, like when you have the transport system infrastructure, what are the details. Then what is the public transport system, cost of operation, performance. Then the data on road accident and data on economic activities and employment. So these are the few secondary or the supporting data that are required. So these are the nothing but the inventories of existing conditions. For traffic data, what are the inventories that you should be preparing? Then for economic data, what are the data that has to be collected? For financial planning data and engineering data. So you can just glance through these data, or these are nothing but database for existing conditions. Okay, for the existing, like traffic data means what is the type of traffic, then what is the nature of the traffic, what is the purpose of the trip usually. Okay, so if you take Bangalore to Nandi, the purpose of trip is obviously it is what? It is recreational, right? So if you're taking from Yelahanka to Whitefield, so usually the purpose of trip will be what? It will be official or business. So based on that, the existing condition has to be, the database for existing condition should be prepared. Then the engineering data, what is the topography of the area? Then what is the type of soil? What are the materials that are available? Then how how easily is labor available, right? Then in economic data, how is the the location of the population? Like even if you consider the city, not the entire population is concentrated on one area, right? How is the population being dispersed? Then the towns and villages, then the location of existing industry. So these are the data that you have to collect for economic data point of view. For financial planning data, what is the fund allocation statistics? Then what is the expenditures incurred? And what are the cost of capital program? So this we have seen type of movement. So movement type will be business movement, commuter movement, holiday movement, or any other private movement. So in next lecture, we will be in detail seeing these many types of survey. So you have home interview survey, roadside interview, commercial vehicle survey, taxi survey, postcard interview survey, registration number survey, tag survey, and public transport survey. So we will be discussing these types of survey in the next class.